everybody. This is Daniel here again with Screenly and the Screenly Changelog. We are very excited to bring you Screenly co-founder and CEO Viktor Peterson. Hello, Viktor. Welcome to episode 9. We're almost in the double digits. We started, yeah, that's right. We started the Changelog almost a year ago, and making progress. And I think it's really gotten some great feedback from our customers and community. So welcome again. So, all right, so we'll jump into it for today. We got a lot to cover. We'll run through it. I think the most timely announcement is we are, we have been for a while, but we're, in terms of the details, we're super locked in to the Infocomm 2025 convention in Orlando, Florida. So
that's right.
I am Screenly's resident Florida man, so I will be taking a short trip. But Viktor will be coming in, and some other members of the Screenly team. So, Viktor, what are your expectations for Infocomm 2025? What are you hoping to achieve there?
I've never done Infocomm before. I've done many of the big signage events, but this is my first Infocomm. It's going to be an interesting one, and because many of the big guys are not there. So Samsung won't be there officially, and neither is, I think, NEC. So many of the big guys are not going. So I'm interested to see how that's going to play out, because it could go either, it could be an amazing show because there's less audience, they drag in less audience to their big booths, and we have a actual chance, or it's going to be fewer, lower attendance score. But we'll see. We just got to gamble on this one and see how it pays off.
Yeah, kind of hard to know until you're there, but Screenly will be there. So for those of you listening who are going to go there or who will have representatives there, do come by the booth and say hi.
Yes.
You heard it here first. We will have delicious Dunkin' Donuts coffee and donuts as well. So
possibly
you can you can use that as you can use saying hi to us as an excuse. So
indeed.
Yeah. So, anyways, looking forward to that. That's coming up next month. So, all right. So let's jump into the rest of the docket here. Lots going on at Screenly. We recently launched an Android app, which is part of Screenly's larger push to be hardware agnostic. So, Viktor, why did we launch the Screenly Android app?
We kind of alluded to this in the last episode, right? Like the landscape is shifting in the signage world. I think the days where a single vendor kind of spanned everything in terms of hardware platform, those days are kind of gone. I think we are seeing a more diverse deployment fabric. So this is really just for us to be keeping up with the times, really. I think you'd be naive to think that or it would be naive to ignore all the smart TVs with Android and the push towards that, right? So we kind of just want to keep up with the times and get in those. And customers have been asking for it, so it's primarily like a customer-driven demand feature. So now it's live. We are in the Android Play Store, so you can find it if you search for Screenly. And it's part of it's a brother or sister app to Screenly Anywhere, and so essentially we're running. You can run your screens without a dedicated digital signage player in the typical sense of hey, you have to have a separate box. We really want it so that people can just use whatever hardware they have, get their screens running immediately. And that's really it. Like when we speak to customers, like a large number of customers, they just want to have like a TV, right? Because the logistics of having to deploy a media player, depending on how and where you're deploying, it can be actually a massive hurdle, right? So that's why for many customers, in particular for, I guess, even for larger customers, when they have different types of signage, their entry-level signage and their basic signage, they just want to have everything built into one box. Whereas there've been some standards with like OPM, for instance, where you can like slot in a pro PC in there. I haven't seen much demand for those, to be honest, but like the entry level to lower entry, low mid tier, media players built in, they seem to be doing well. Samsung, LG, all those guys are shipping it. So we just kind of want to be with the times.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, well, cool. So we have an Android app that's live now. You can access it in the ad screen section of your account, and of course on the Play Store.
Yeah.
And so the big wave of internet trend of vibe coding has flooded Screenly as well, bringing us to our next topic here. So. Vibe coding. Victor Peterson himself is a vibe coder. Let's get that on the airwaves. Victor, what have you been vibe coding?
So I part of my job is to just keep up with the technologies, right? Like what's going on and being just both for what tools we use internally and for what we kind of helping our customers with as well. But the one thing that I set out to figure out was these tools are obviously becoming much better at a very rapid pace. And what I was curious to do last week I did these recorded sessions where I literally like in real time recorded my project with Cursor in particular, using that as the tool to create edge apps for Screenly. So basically I set up with a few different goals and recorded in real time, like no cuts, nothing. And within an hour, you can create like really custom applications that solves real business needs, right? So one of them, we create some fake dashboards, but you can plug those in with various data sources. We created a dashboard for proximity sensors, not proximity, humidity and temperature sensors, which we'll probably be showcasing at Infocomm. By the way, we're probably going to bring it there. And these are just dashboards that can read data and display them in a nice way on the screens. And the reason why this is important is because it lowers the bar significantly to do custom applications for things that might not necessarily have been cost effective in the past because you needed a kind of engineering team to do. You can literally like just vibe code your way through, like even if you're not a super senior engineer, or like you can do the work of multiple people essentially and basically create dashboards and create signage use cases that would not have been viable to do before because it was not like that cost effective. But it's like literally like an hour's worth of time. You have something that you can actually put up on the screens that runs on the Screenly edge app environment, and you just point cursor to our developer documentation. It can just guide you through the process. And I think that was the really cool part of it, like how well it could read the documentation and actually follow through it and follow the guidelines that we put up in the documentation and actually just do it for you, right? So that's really impressive.
Yeah, and you can get started on these projects too without like a whole get a dev ready task and have all the product specs. You can kind of go into it knowing plus or minus what you want, and then run into the limitations in real time and add things and make those trade-off decisions, and that's the vibe coding part, right? So it makes it kind of fun.
And with the edge and because you have a local runtime environment for edge app as well, you can test things in real time and get real time feedback and feed that back into these tools. And it just for a lot of internal applications, for instance, don't need to be perfect. Like you're solving for a problem, you're not solving for perfect, right? So if you just want to have like some kind of custom dashboard or some custom thing on the screens that pulls in some custom internal metrics that is available through some data source, you can do that, right? And that's what's really cool about this. And we take care of the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Yeah, and maybe even speaking just like outside of Screenly, just coding in general. Victor, what are your top optimizations to get tools like Cursor in your development environment to run the best and really produce the best outputs? Do you have any quick tips there that have been really useful in your workflows?
Yeah, I mean, tight scopes is the big thing. Like the larger the context window, as it's called, becomes, the more these tools struggle, right? So
Yeah.
you need to make sure you have a really tight window of like information, and that's when they do best. And then you can do there's a lot of prompt engineering going on and like how you optimize that, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this because it's kind of technical. But generally speaking, like focus on small problem space, a small bug, a small feature, or like the edge app, like the entire thing. It's like a few hundred lines of code. It's like nothing in the grand scheme of things, if that.
Yeah.
And just that's small enough that it can keep everything in memory without choking, right? So I think that breaking down, if you work on a bigger project, breaking it down to small subsection and small problems, focus on that. That's how these tools, in my experience, perform best.
Yeah, and I think just having too like an appreciation for the like ambiguity that is often in direction, right? And like you're forced to really confront that head on when you start getting some feedback or output where you're just like, oh shoot, I needed to specify X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah, and one of the beautiful things that it forced you to think about things that you haven't necessarily thought of. Like everybody, everybody working in an engineering company or somebody that produces software, they've written user stories or these tickets, but oftentimes you forget about things. Like, and that's kind of where wireframes and mockups and all those come through. But like, this is kind of like a substitute for a mockup because you're actually doing it in real time. You can see the feedback and you realize actually doing it this way actually was not the best way to do it. So therefore, I'm going to pivot quickly instead of So it's like I've seen companies that have essentially replaced their entire mockup and wireframing frameworks or guidelines internally with basically these tools because they can do it quicker than you can even do mockups.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, and last point on the vibe coding is that Screenly got rickrolled, or better yet, rickrolled itself. How did that happen?
I just wanted to showcase some of the functionalities we have built in Screenly, and I was using Node-RED, which is a common tool in the IoT world for like kind of like it's a visual programming language kind of where you can set conditional logic, and we've used it in the past for some other things, but in this particular video I just used it to, if a button is flipped, we basically flip the content of the screen over to showing the rickrolling video for 30 seconds and then toggle back to the regular interface. And the whole point of that example was like, obviously that's a silly example, but it could have been something real. It could have been like an exhibition where you're like, oh, if you press this button, we will show you a video on screen for about whatever that button does, right? So we've had customers ask for similar things or doing similar things in the past. So this is kind of like, let's do that with a fun flip, I guess, or a fun spin.
Yeah, nice. Well, you can see that on our YouTube channel, which is very much growing, by the way. So if you haven't been on there recently, check it out. We're really trying to pump our video and make sure that, we show people how to get the most out of Screenly. So you can see on there a bunch of these vibe coding tutorials, also tutorials on how to use Screenly with other dashboarding tools, walking you through it step by step. So something you can use yourself, or
you've been spinning a lot of these lately. So that's
it's starting to add up. So it's something that someone can just look at themselves, but they're also really from like step 1 too. So you can just kind of send the link to an employee who's either technical or non-technical, and they should really. It's really geared so that they can just run with it. So
video is great for tutorials, I think. Some people are more visual learners than others, right? So like for that audience, like it's a great way to communicate.
Yeah, and just one more thing too on those the Rick rolling thing was kind of a joke, but it was it does showcase like some very cool use cases, and it just reminds me back when we were at ISE in Barcelona. There were some really cool sensor display booths showing, in particular with grocery stores, where it was, essentially you grab for like the fruit at a grocery store was their demo, and it immediately changes the content that shows on those screens. It was like kind of about how they were organically sourced or something like that. And
we did this way back when at MWC 2015. I think we had it. I think we kind of coined the industry term interactive signage, or not interactive, but reactive signage, and that's like it's use the same principles.
Well, and the thing is too, like with Edge apps, one of their core features is that they run directly on the device themselves. So that, if you think about, it's like a second, latency without, if it would run in the cloud, like that's fine in most use cases, but it really appears super glitchy if you're doing something like trying to grab for a fruit, right? You need just milliseconds.
And that's something we're building out.
Architecture.
That's something we're building out even more to be able to tap into hardware sensors directly on the Edge app. So that's something that we're building out as well further on. But there's absolutely, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay. And also talking about how we can use Screenly with multiple apps and different third-party tools is our Zapier integration. So we launched that about
December,
a month or two ago.
December,
even more than that. And essentially it was like in the Zapier demo stage, which was hey, you can access it live, but it's kind of unlisted. And just recently we got enough installations that it's now fully accessible on the store and visible through search engines and all that. So the point being there is that we are excited that more people in our community are using our Zapier integration. It really allows us to scale Screenly's breadth of touch points with other tools, and you can use it right now. So
that's right.
And there's some tutorials also on our site on how you can use Zapier to. We have some on different file storage tools. So whether it's like Google Drive, we have one, Dropbox, and then also the Enterprise Toolbox, where you can just set up a folder and then use, adding or removing content to change what displays on your digital sign. So so tons of ways that you can use Screenly with other products is the name of the game here. So I will give the floor to you here, Victor, on I think one of our biggest announcements in a while, which is we have our SOC 2 finally in. So give us a little bit of the background there. I'm just going to let you run with it because I know you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, SOC 2 is one of those things that it's almost table stakes for a lot of enterprise customers. Like a lot of enterprise customers will not do business with any company that doesn't have compliance, right? It's SOC 2 in the US or ISO 27001 in Europe tend to be those two standards. We passed our compliance early this year, but it's just been a lot of paperwork back and forth. So we finally this week got our final certification that we passed.
Nice.
The best way I can describe SOC 2 is like, there is an element of security, but what it really is a documentation exercise. So we've spent a lot of time improving our documentation for how we do things. There was nothing like major in their findings that were like red flags for our security really that we found. Because we've done pen tests before, we've done some things there. Like obviously every pen test will find something small, but we found things there. We fixed some things, but nothing major there. But what really lot got to do was to get our documentation in order and making sure our checks were working properly. Not checks, our workflows were documented properly. And I think being a remote company, that's a good thing, particular for us, because remote means that you really need to document everything well, and so that's a good thing. But it is very time consuming. There's no way of sugarcoating that. Doing SOC 2 took a lot of effort, but it's finally there, and I'm super proud of the team for putting all the stops to actually get that done, because I know there were many small things that together added up a lot of time. So
for sure,
so very pleased with the team for finally getting that across the finishing line.
Any words of wisdom now that we're on the other side for peers who are also going through this process? What do you know now that you wish you knew when we started?
No words of wisdom, but I must say shout out to Vanta. That's the compliance platform we've been using. They have some really good automated checks. So nice. That saved us a lot of effort by not having to manually go and pull data and screenshot things. They're able to pull things and run the checks programmatically. So shout out to Vanta for a good platform. I know there are other platforms out there like Drawtha and a few others that are also good, but we chose Vanta and it's been working well for us. Yeah, thumbs up for them.
Nice. Cool. Okay. And so we talked about we started talking about our Android app, and how that's basically a sister app of our Screenly Anywhere browser-based screens. And we're making a ton of improvements to Screenly Anywhere, especially as it gets more user adoption.
Yes.
One of those I guess categories of improvements are how we are making Screenly Anywhere screens more monitorable by essentially the user's Screenly account, so that they can check screen health and troubleshoot when needed. So, Victor, what are some of the improvements to Screenly Anywhere that allow people to have better visibility and screen monitoring as to what's going on in their screens?
So we've added a lot of improvements to the logic and how we communicate from the browser to our backend. It's fundamentally different to how our regular player works, and by operating within a browser, you're not able to pull as much diagnostics data. That's a big constraint, right? We can't. There are kind of ways, but not really ways. Like for instance, like screenshotting. Like that's a pretty basic functionality in our regular player, which we've had for ages, which is great for debugging and diagnostics. But when you're running inside a browser, you can't really. You can normally not screenshot. The browser can't screenshot itself, which means that you don't really know what's actually showing on the screen. So that's one of the bigger constraints. Now, with some of the smart TVs, they have added functionalities that allows you to do things that you can not normally do. So there are ways we can improve that, and those are things we're looking into building in. But generally speaking, we are a lot more constrained in what we can do in terms of diagnostic inside a browser. So we have a number of functionalities for like health checks that we built out, making sure that we know if the screen is online, we know it's running, with some like pings and heartbeats and whatnot. But we are less sophisticated today than we are with our regular player, but we are working on ways to improve that right now. But yeah, we have added support for like seeing what version of Screenly Anywhere you're running, for instance, and making sure that we get some more diagnostics data and health data over the finishing line there.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think it's kind of like one of those things people learn about digital signage once they start looking into it, which is, okay, obviously you want to show stuff on a screen, but then a whole component into the management of it is, hey, let's make sure things we want to display are displaying, and when they're not, we also really need to know about that so we can fix it.
That's right.
And just by their nature, digital signs are often really kind of remote from the teams that actually manage them.
Yes.
And
yeah, you're absolutely right. Like device management is definitely a functionality that's usually underestimated, at least for smaller operator. Bigger operators, they understand the importance of that. When you speak to enterprises, they understand because they do device management for everything else as well, right? But for people new to the game, people coming from like the AV side of things rather than the IT side of things, they might not be fully aware of the ramifications of that, at least small operations. So yeah, absolutely. Health checks and diagnostics, and those are important things.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Victor, I think we covered a lot here on episode 9 of the Screenly Changelog. We're continuing to build out more and more of our Edge apps. So, for those of you who have been building your own or are thinking about new ones, be sure to keep on our socials for new ones there. And we look forward to seeing everyone at Infocomm in 2025 as well. So, Victor, any other closing comments here?
No, I mean, I'm excited to actually go to Infocomm for the first time and see how it is, and then meet and greet all. We know we have customers coming, and we know already lined up speaking to, so we got some interesting conversations ahead.
Yeah, back in our DSC in Vegas in December, people were even talking about Infocomm then. So,
yes.
Definitely a huge conference. Way broader than just signage as well, and we'll be excited to see what's going on in the industry. So,
exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Screenly Changelog, and we look forward to seeing you next time for our first double-digit episode.
That's
10.
right.
So, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.